Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Seahawks Real Hawk Talk post-game show. I am Brian Nimhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And I considered calling this the post-shame show again. We had one of those after the Giants performance, and this one was certainly in the conversation of that level of despair. Look, we'll talk about it. There's not going to be you're not going to hear any conversation about moral victories or at least this didn't happen or that didn't happen. The takeaway from today's game, let me just say this. I am not going to be open to anything of, if they hadn't just, had that bad snap, or if they hadn't have just tripped Geno at all those plays inside the 3-yard line, and if they hadn't had the roughing the passer penalty at the end of the half that turned into a touchdown, sure, all of those plays, they don't happen, and maybe you lose 24-10 or 24-13 or something, or 24-14 or whatever. Point being is that for what we saw today, the Seahawks don't belong on the field with any quality opponent. And I think we just got to face that right now, that when you look at the Seahawks, they played the Lions, absolute Super Bowl contender. They played the 49ers, fringe Super Bowl contender. I think no one will be surprised if they get back into that mix. And they play the Bills, who are a clear Super Bowl contender. And they just look like a different level of team. And it doesn't look like they're one level away. It doesn't even look like they're 2 levels away. They look like they just don't belong on the field with these teams right now. And I think one of the most concerning things about the performance today is they just didn't have any starch in them. Like when things spiraled, they just were so outclassed that there was just no fight in the second half of that game. And that was it was disappointing to see. And as we start to look at this team, there's 2 things that I think are just absolute facts. You can be mad at whatever you want. If you cannot stop the run and you cannot run the ball, and you can't do both of those things, let alone one of them, you're an irrelevant team. You have no hope. And the Seahawks have not stopped the run for 6 weeks at this point, 5 weeks, whatever it's been. And they just didn't look close. They did not look close in this game. So, congratulations to the Bills. Congratulations to Bills fans. I hope they go off and they win a Super Bowl. But for Seahawks fans, man, it was rough. Let me bring in the fellas. Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. Who wants to go first? Jeff, you're unmuted. Why don't you go first?
So sorry if you caught me laughing. I don't know if the Bears were on the 1-yard line about to take the lead, and they handed the ball to an offensive lineman, and he fumbled in one of the worst ways possible. Hit him in the chest, and the ball just went up in the air, and Caleb Williams is just in shot. So it was one of the weirdest. So sorry, I was a little distracted. It was one of the dumbest.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, the amount of absolute Keystone Cops bullshit that happened in the first half of this game. Whoa, dude. That was when you're not good enough to play against a team like this and that stuff happens, you get a game like this.
Yeah, I'll answer your original, what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I think you covered it well. I watch all the teams around the NFL. I have 3 or 4 TVs in my little man cave thing. And right now, there just isn't a team that looked like Seattle in terms of just their inability to defend the run. I don't see another team that looks like that. And when you're that hopeless, and Brian, you've talked about it before, when you're that hopeless against the run, there's nothing just worse of a feeling as just a fan or a watcher. And I think we have to talk about reality. That game to me was just a big reality slap. I think the Atlanta game kind of brought a lot of hope back, and we saw a lot of things they do well. But when you watch these teams around the NFL, and like I'm watching the Saints right now, and you see like the Falcons and the Bucks, and they're these teams that are they have some fun players and they have some fun games, but are they really competing for a championship? And when you watch the Seahawks play these elite level teams, it feels like the Seahawks are kind of with the NFC South group, where like they have talent, but are they built correctly? Is it built in the right places? And like we talked about like leadership issues and like, do they have the right dudes in the room? Like the way this team loses every time they lose just happens to me in this like most like embarrassing fashion that like just wasn't there in other years. And all 4 losses have just like got to hit you at your core. And I guess if we're just objectively analyzing, obviously the first half should have been a lot different with better luck, but you watch the full game and it's like, what does this team do well? Like, it's so hard to build an identity. Like you said, when you can't run the ball, you can't stop the run. That's supposed to be like what Mike McDonald was at Michigan. And that's the team we all want. But when you're a team, again, that can't get open, they can't pass block, they can't stop the run, it's just really hard to get excited about the direction of the roster. Because I was texting you guys earlier and I said, like, they do have talent. They're not like an untalented team, but it feels like the talent's in the wrong places. And when they play great teams, like you said, Brian, they just kind of get swatted around like a fly. Like,
yeah, Evan, I want to hear from you on this. I think part of it for me is, you just don't feel the talent enough, and I don't know, like, where there's so many things going wrong. I don't know what, like, when you have no arms and no legs and no tourniquet to apply, and you're just bleeding profusely from every lopped off appendage, like, pick a poison. I mean, all of it sucks. But I just, I asked Mike McDonald this question on Friday, and I think he thought I was asking it about him. I asked about this concept of peacetime CEO and wartime CEO. It's a business thing. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the basic premise is you need different leaders in different situations. And the reason I was asking about that is I think that there's a different kind of leader you need on the field on game days. And I'm talking about the players, the coach, sure, but I'm talking about the players. And then there's leaders that you need between the games. And I look at this Seahawks team, and there's just a lot of evidence that they don't have the guys in the room that when things start spiraling can get people straightened out and get things turned around. I mean, I was going to say it's coaching, and that's fine. Whatever your take is fine. But I just really wonder, like, who are the guys? Who are the guys that are saying, like, this is not the way we're going to play today, and we're going to turn it around? I'm going to make a play in order to make sure we turn it around. Evan, what's your reaction to all this?
Whew. Jeff said it really well, I think. What a wake-up call. I was wrong to, I think, have hope in the short term that this team could put it together to at least look competitive. With Super Bowl contenders, for me, the first half, there were a lot of unlucky sort of like bounces and things that I feel like don't normally happen, but that was a complete meltdown in the second half and made me end up feeling way worse about this game in totality. So many issues across the board, talent issues, execution issues. I mean, it starts in the trenches. I'm looking at this data right now, 12 rushing attempts for 16 yards. Is 0.7 yards per carry good, guys? Like, is that bad?
It's not good.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Especially when you're going against a bad rushing defense, and the only way you had a chance in this game, the only way, is to run the ball.
Your best offensive player is out, and you start your first drive with 3 straight passes?
Yeah.
Am I off base? Like, I don't even.
Yeah.
I'm kind of at a loss for words, guys. Like, this team is. They've got a long ways to go. This is not a team that's close to contending from a talent perspective, execution related. Like, God, it's just hard to. It's hard to process what happened today, to be honest. So I'm at a loss for words, guys.
Where do you even go from here? you look at this game, is there anything that you say as a coach where you say, okay, I'm going to go back to this and say, hey, correct. I mean, the coaches will probably be like, hey, we had the ball inside the 5. We had a chance to do this and that. We had the ball inside the 5. We had a chance to do this and that. Those are mistakes we won't make again, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. Like, I can't imagine that the players feel like we were close in this one. I can't imagine that.
Not with Gino throwing footballs at opponents' heads, our own guys fighting on the sideline. Like, I just. Well,
that's. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
You got to say, when it's this bad, you've got to say, okay, who are your players that are gonna like pull you out? And one way could do it could be like, leadership and talking to guys and getting them straightened and whatever. Another way is that you just raise your level of play and you lift your teammates. I didn't see that from Devon Witherspoon. I didn't see it from Leonard Williams. I didn't see it from Byron Murphy or Derek Hall or Boye Mafe. I didn't see it from Geno Smith. Was there anybody that stepped up today? Anybody?
I thought Kobe Bryant had like an okay game.
Okay, Ernest Jones had 15 tackles. I didn't know that.
AJ Barner.
AJ Barner had a couple of plays, I guess.
We're really reaching here, but
I mean, look, this is where the way that the conversation's going to go among the fan base right now. Mike McDonald sucks. Ryan Grubb sucks. Blow it all up. John Schneider sucks. Geno sucks. Everything sucks. That's going to be the conversation. Then there's not going to be any placating anybody, right? Like there's no ability to find equal ground. The only way through this is to find something that you do well and frickin' like plant that seed and just work on it until it's something meaningful, because the Rams are coming to town next week. And no one wants to hear this, but the reality is if you find a way to win that game, then you're in a much better position going into the bye week. But you lose that game, and this season, again, is right on the brink of spiraling. And that feels like probably the more likely scenario. Seahawks have now lost 3 straight home games. It's not good. It's not good. And I get the frustration. I understand. I mean, everyone's welcome to whatever rant they want today, as long as it's not against someone else in chat. But like anything you want to call, Mike McDonald did not coach well today. Ryan Grubb had one series where I was like, oh man, he schemed up a lot of like open, like I was like, okay, maybe found something. It was a disaster after that. So, I mean, even D Williams with another muffed punt. Are we at the point where like people start losing their jobs? Like I'm talking about on the field. Like D Williams probably should not be returning punts anymore. As an easy one. Whose else's job could you just rip from them right now and say, okay, you're not good enough?
Both guards. But who do you replace them with?
That's the problem. They're playing at a benchable level, but like Christian Haynes coming in is not solving the problem. I don't know who else they have, unless you like put LaMea in there or something, but that just might be to more problems. And
Draymond Jones had a terrible game.
Yeah, I've had Draymond Jones.
After retweeting me late on Twitter late last night.
You like that?
Game, by the way, putting more pressure on Twitter users than the quarterback. Really cool.
You want to know what Christian Haynes' early pending review PFF grade was as a pass blocker?
Oh boy.
Out of 100? Give me a guess.
12.
You fucking nailed it.
Actually?
Yeah. Nailed it. He was like, he's
the only good
one,
part of the 12s today. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing one for the fans, man. The 12s. We got one today. Christian Haynes with a 12.0 pass block grade.
Oh my God. They gotta.
Man.
I don't know what they can do because I'm not like a schematic expert, but like again, I watch every team in the league. There's no way the players are bad enough where they're getting gashed every run play. And I don't know if this is a scheme thing. I don't know if the players are
It
this
has
bad.
to be scheme related.
It has to be scheme related because nothing looks like this. I see even the Panthers don't look like this. And if they have to stack the freaking box with 10 guys in there and give up passes, I don't care. But I can't watch a team getting gashed on every run play where there's not a single negative play ever unless someone like blows through a double team.
Yeah.
I can't watch this anymore. It's ridiculously bad.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, let them throw for 600 yards, but don't let them run for 160. Like, I'm done with that. Like,
it's every play.
There's no way this run defense should be this bad, like consistently against every single team.
Yeah.
Can I bring up an uncomfortable conversation?
Yeah.
When are we going to talk about Devon Witherspoon's play this year?
Let's talk about it. It's as good a time as any.
Do you want me to talk about it or are you going to talk about it?
Yeah. Go ahead. You start. I think Evan needs your help, Jeff. Help him out.
Listen, we all thought Devon Witherspoon with Mike McDonald was going to be like a complete difference, like weapon dominating. We saw what happened with Kyle Hamilton. The first couple games, like he didn't get to that level, but his coverage grades and all this stuff, like teams were just avoiding him. But the last 2 weeks, there's a lot of buildup. Like, where's Witherspoon? Where's Witherspoon? And I'm like, he's actually playing pretty well. The last 2 games, his tackling, and it feels like he's trying to do too much now. And he just like constantly looks exasperated. And not only is he not impacting the game, he's played like crap the last 2 games. And I think this is a guy we thought was the best player on the team, top 5 pick. This guy has to have more of an impact on the team. And it's one thing for me to say, like, well, they're just not throwing at him. But at some point, it starts to spiral, like Evan said. And for a top 5 pick who's supposed to be like a core player, we need more. We need him to be better. And I think it's among the problems. I don't know how high I'd even rank him, but I think Evan's right. Like, this is a guy that's supposed to be your best player. Where is he?
I think Witherspoon's in that conversation. I got to throw Byron Murphy into that conversation. I mean, where was Byron Murphy today against a pretty like inferior interior O-line for the Bills? The Seahawks overall had 10 pressures on the day. Like, that's one of their lowest. I think it might be their lowest pressure. Like, some of it, Josh Allen was getting rid of the ball super quick early in the game, but the defensive front's supposed to be the strength of this team, and I felt like they were nowhere to be found today.
I mean, how many rushing yards did we give up? Like 160, 170?
164 yards. I mean, they even managed to give up yards on fumbles forward. I mean, like, they're so far from tackling anybody that you can fumble the ball directly down the middle of the field 10 yards and recover it. Like, that's how few defenders seem to be near the ball in these situations.
No one else looks like this. It's
No.
actually insane.
No, they don't. And I don't think Mike McDonald's going to get a lot of sleep. I don't think he should get a lot of sleep. And there's not a lot of, I mean, that's the other thing, is there's not a lot of signs of like, okay, they're close to getting this figured out.
That's what
This
worries
was a
me.
huge step back.
Yeah.
All right,
'Cause
there's a couple
Go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Jeff. What were you going to say?
Oh, I've just said, like, I've said it all year. Like, you can tell by the eye test when a team is looking good and you can see there's something there. This is spiraling the other way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can tell when a team isn't good and when things are just like, and I said it again, I don't care what their record is. I want to watch the team and feel great about where they're going. And it's impossible to feel that way based on the last month and a half.
Yeah. You know what would be a good idea? Start a new career where you talk about this team every day, sometimes multiple times a day. That would be a good way to spend your time. I'd advise that. My God. All right. Here are some super chats. Michael Mathis comes with a bad loss. Take a moment to smile. It's a bad day, not a bad life. All reactions outside of firing McDonald have some credibility, in my opinion. I think that's a fair take. Nell God, seeing a lot of blame on Geno. Anyone blaming Geno doesn't get it. The defense stinks. The offense blows. Buffalo O-line manhandled our D. I think Geno deserves blame. I don't think Geno had a particularly impressive game. I think he made some mistakes. I don't think he was helped that much, but I don't think that was great. O'Dwyer says the lack of leaders is worrying. Jay Reed was the only one trying to make players take accountability. When things go against them in games, heads drop. I think that's true. Danny McCormick says, did Mike Mack not walk into the culture that he was? I don't understand that, Danny. Sorry, man. And Kyle Flanders, last one here, says, I've grown up my whole life being excited for home games. We always won over the last 5 years. I've slowly come to dread when we play at home. This is an underrated comment, guys. I mean, again, it was mostly Bills fans all around. I had a Packers fan sitting behind me who was so drunk cheering for the Bills because he put a bet on them, not because he cared anything else. And he was just so obnoxious and screaming in our ear the whole time. It was a real, I mean, the score of the game sucked, but like having that experience that I paid for, like, and then I paid to go downtown, like, no wonder people aren't going to the game. Why would you want to pay money and deal with the hassle to go downtown and watch your team not even put up a fight? I mean, it's rough. It's rough. Jacob says, we need to have a discussion about John Schneider. Been the exact same problems for years. Let's talk about that, guys. Evan, you first.
I mean, my God. I mean, you can't run the ball. You can't stop the run. And by the way, we should be able to stop the run. Our defensive line is healthy. Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams need to be playing better. So we can't do those two things. But on the offense, John Schneider has very clearly said he thinks guards are overdrafted and overpaid. So it kind of goes back to our conversation today. Like, I want to be really frustrated, guys, with Ryan Grubb. And I understand there's probably some improvements they can make schematically and play rhythm-wise. But, like, when you have two non-functional guards in a center who's, like, solely responsible for tricking off 11 points today, what can you do? How are you
Jeff,
supposed
where
to
are you on John Schneider?
I think this season is oh my God.
What?
Oh my God.
What happened?
Washington just hit a 70-yard Hail Mary with 0 seconds left on a tip pass to win the game. 70 yards.
No, they did not.
Yeah, they did. 70-yard Hail Mary.
Oh my God, my
Holy
stream's
crap.
delayed.
Oh my God, the Bears are like keeling over right now. Oh my God, that was ridiculous.
Is this like his Aaron Rodgers and Arizona moment? Oh my God.
That was okay. Wow, that was
who caught it?
Noah Brown. Okay.
I got to ask you guys this. This is an uncomfortable question, but I got to ask it.
Yeah.
Do you think the Seahawks would be in a different place if Dan Quinn was their head coach?
Yes. Yeah.
Say why.
How much better? Like, what's their?
Let's talk about it.
Again, I think McDonald is a rookie coach and he's learning a lot on the job. I think Dan Quinn is second time around. I think he's got a much more experienced staff. I think they look way more put together. They had inherited an offensive line in a far worse situation. Now, they have an excellent general manager there. But I think Dan Quinn, their team just looks really well. They're in control. They're well coached. I don't know how Dan Quinn would have done against like a McVay Shanahan, but I think McDonald, a lot of the issues, he's never gone through this before. And maybe his ceiling, I think, is a lot higher overall than Dan Quinn's. But I think Quinn, this is the second time he's done this job. He's got a really experienced staff, and they just look, their talent level on defense is pretty poor with a lot of free agents. Mm-hmm. They look well coached. Everything kind of comes together. And again, I think 100%. They look like just a very well-coached team right now with some very obvious limitations. We don't have Jaden Daniels, but defensively, there's no reason we shouldn't look capable of stopping the run. I think Quinn would be able to do that, kind of handle the locker room a little better.
Mm-hmm. Evan, what about you?
I'm in the same boat. My God, Jeff, what do you think their record is if they have Dan Quinn? Same team. Is it a win? You're on mute. Is it a win better, 2 wins?
1 win. I think they beat the Giants.
You think they beat the Giants?
I don't think they beat San Francisco, Detroit, Buffalo with Dan Quinn.
Sure.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think just is going to suck for Seahawks fans, because everyone's going to want to like say, okay, it's Geno. We just need a better quarterback. It's Mike McDonald. We just need a better head coach. It's Ryan Grubb. We need a better offensive coordinator. I mean, pick your poison, but it's pretty systemic. And here's the thing is they had Pete Carroll last year, who was better than even Dan Quinn at commanding a locker room. I don't think this team is meaningfully better with Pete Carroll this year. So people will argue that, and I know I just opened a can of worms, but this defense has been really shit for years. It's really shit right now. So it's like they're free falling, and there's nothing that they can hold on to say, okay, here's what we can do. Like, we can at least point to this and say, okay, we've got something there we're working on. They were going to lose today. We all predicted they were going to lose today. If they had lost 27-23, if they had lost 27-14, but the defensive line had put pressure on Josh Allen all day and he made some hero throws, like, there was a lot of ways they could have lost this game, and you would have walked away saying, you know what? No shit, we're not in the same category. Like, no one thinks we are in the same category as the Bills. The fact that there's not even contact. It's just like, you just want to avert your eyes, man. You don't, like, it's embarrassing. It's shameful. You don't want to watch. You don't want to cheer for your team. Like, it's that bad. We got a couple other cheaper chats here. I know we're probably going to wrap up here pretty quick, but Austin says, I'm concerned with Grubb's play calling and lack of ability to run. We have one of the best 1-2 punches at running back. I don't know about that. I do not know about that. I'm fine with the Grubb play calling question. Agree with ability to run. Zach Charbonnet should have scored a touchdown. I think that's a huge, like, that was a shit run there. Like, that was blocked well enough to be able to score, and he's not getting the yards he needs to get. Zach Charbonnet has been unacceptably bad this year. So I'm not there with you yet.
Thank you for saying that, by the way. He's left a lot of yards on the field, and there's too many times where he hits contact and drops on first touch. Like, he's leaving yards on the field. It's that simple.
Yeah. For a guy that's supposed to be able to bowl people over, and like, there was none of that today. Brian, huge fan of the show. Tough game today. I was cheering my ass off all game, but being down 31-3 is insane. We fans deserve better. Agree on that. Mark says Geno is a very good player, but to me shows at times lack of leadership and poise in bad moments. I think that's fair. Thank you to Susette for gifting 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. Nice of you to do that. Appreciate it. Dan is 6-2. LOL. Yeah, I don't think they haven't played the same teams. They don't have the same roster. I don't think you could just say what their record is and say that that's what the Seahawks would be. I mean, I just don't think that's right. All right, guys. I don't want to spend much more time. I'm going to spend time with my family and try to, like, turn my attention elsewhere. What are your final thoughts here? What are your final thoughts? Evan, I'll let you go first.
I'm pretty confused, depressed, and concerned about the trajectory of this team. I feel like our stars are sort of in meltdown mode here. And the one area I turn my attention to is Mike McDonald. How's he going to fix this? What's he going to look like in the interview tomorrow on Brock and Sock? What's he gonna say in press conferences this week? What's he going to do to get this team on some sort of improvement plan? Or they need to be put on a PIP, this entire freaking football team. They all deserve PIPs. And I'm just fascinated to see how he responds to this, because I don't know what you do. frankly. And I don't know what you say. So my attention turns to him.
Jeff.
I'm definitely concerned. I thought that was a game I had every ounce of me thought they were going to lose the game.
Yeah.
And then the embarrassing fashion with they kind of blew that between the bad snap, the Connor Williams stepping on Geno's foot, the fumble thing, all these kinds of things. I could have lived with that if like that was the only story of the game. But I'm just going to be honest. I'm tired of watching a team that has a shit offensive line. I'm tired of watching a team that has a shit defense. It's just you watch the Chargers play with Jim Harbaugh. They come in and they fix their offensive line in one offseason because they commit to it. And he said it's the only position on the team. And we want to know why the Seahawks are up and down and they're this team. The way they're set up to play right now is not sustainable. It's too reliant on Geno, just like some of our older teams were too reliant on Russell. And it's the same shit. You watch a team that has a good offensive line, and look at the Bills. They got rid of Stephon Diggs. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to suck on offense. How much more sustainable do they look now? And it's the teams that have the good offensive lines, and then that makes the whole rest of the offense. You can run the ball. You can play quarterback. You can be more in control. So until they fix this freaking problem, it's going to be the same up and down nature, kind of like those NFC South teams I'm always talking about, that they're fun one week, they're shit the next. It's the same thing. Every week you can't rely on anything because you can't block them. And until they fix that problem, you can put any coach in here, and that's why so many guys like the offensive coaches because they're so much more focused on the offensive lines. But until they fix that problem, it's hard to see them getting out of the path they're on.
Couple more things before we go. A couple super chats I want to make sure we get to. Gregory Campbell says, tough loss today, but I'm sure McDonald will rally the troops and have the guys ready to play and win the next game. Just a few loose ends to tie up. That is a optimistic view, Gregory. I respect it. Nell God says, Jeff, we debate a lot about Geno on Twitter. Point is unless Geno plays perfectly, we don't win because the O-line and run game don't help. D is terrible. Kyle Flanders gifted 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. I got to say, I am really impressed that people are donating memberships and like doing something generous when things are this bad. I think it speaks really highly of all of you that you're thinking about giving things to other people in these moments. I think that's a good lesson to learn. If you can find a way to make someone else's day better today, consider doing it because your day is going to suck probably one way or another. Here's where I am, guys, and here's where I'll kind of wrap things is there's the one benefit of what's happening right now is there's nowhere to hide. There is nowhere to hide. No one's given quarter on this. So you are going to see who the players are, if any of them are, the people to help turn this franchise around. And you know, it's not going to be someone who's sitting there trying to get Instagram likes or somebody who's more concerned about their sponsorship deals or who can be okay with this. Somebody in that locker room, hopefully more than one person, is going to potentially start fights during practice this week, is going to potentially, call a players only meeting, is going to potentially play their best game of the season at some point here in the coming weeks. I don't believe all 53 or 69, if practice squads included, players on that team are going to all wash out the rest of this year. I don't believe that. And there's no place to hide for the coaches either. So I wouldn't say this is rock bottom, but it's certainly scraping along it. So let's see. Let's see who those guys are. I think we're letting go of playoff and division and all that conversation. And it's just find me somebody who gives a shit about being a Seahawk and wants to make being a Seahawk mean something again. Because right now, it's just a piece of clothing that you put on every Sunday and you take off. And that's not what I cheer for. So, rough one, fellas. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everyone tuning in. If you haven't given the show a like, I'd appreciate that as well. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be on first thing tomorrow. I will be on every day this week. I'm not going anywhere. So we will see you all then. Until then, thank you all. Take care. I am Brian Nemhauge. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been a Seahawks post-game show for Real Hawk Talk.